It's noon here in Ventnor City, New Jersey, and our nation's capital, Washington, D.C., and this is CarEdge Live for Wednesday, March 5th. Damn, I lost a month there. It is indeed March 5th. With your hosts, me, Ray, couldn't afford a collared shirt again today, but I do have the hoodie going, and my son, Zach. How are you today, handsome?
Still have a Today Show hangover. Cannot believe, folks, that CarEdge was featured on the Today Show yesterday. Still in disbelief. We've got an incredible guest who's joined us to talk Toyota, so stay tuned for that in just a moment here. But a friendly reminder, today's show is brought to you by CarEdge.com, as seen on the Today Show yesterday. If we can help you out with anything, folks, check it out, CarEdge.com. And Dad, every once in a while, we get lucky enough to have some folks that are really in the trenches working with customers day in and day out. We all know it, Dad. We see it in the comments all the time. You're just a washed up old sale. No, you're not. My dad hasn't sold a car, though, for 5 years. I've never sold a car. So we got to get
7 years. 7 years.
So we got to get some real pros in here with us, Dad. And today we have Tyler Baker from Ackerman Toyota joining us outside St. Louis, Missouri, if I'm not mistaken. Tyler, thanks for taking the time to join us today.
Sure. Thanks for having me.
All right, Pops. I know we've been talking Toyota behind the scenes a bunch recently. The big thing that we've been following is the fact that Toyota's deliveries were actually down year over year, as were Ford's, Honda's, whereas Hyundai, Kia were going high up, growing their sales. What's going through your head, Pops, that we want to ask Tyler this morning?
Well, since Tyler's in the trenches and actually selling cars, is it true, at least in your neck of the woods, is it true that the deliveries were down in February, or did you have a better February than expected?
No, February was down for both of us and the region, which is 7 states over 74 stores as far as we're concerned. But as far as the longer term, I mean, 2 years ago was the best year we've had as a dealership in 40 years. A year ago was the best year we've had in 41 years. And, January was a good month, but February was down kind of across the board.
What do you attribute that to, do you think?
I don't know. Locally, the weather had a lot to do with it. In St. Louis, you never know what's going to happen. I mean, it was 72 days ago, and it was blizzard conditions this morning. So we had a couple big snow events that probably pushed that a little bit. But overall, I think we're still cooking as usual.
Can I ask one more question before my son jumps in?
Go for it,
do you subscribe to the theory that the best time to buy a car is the last day of February if it happens to be a blizzard?
I don't know about that one.
Well, I've always said that's the best time because what the hell, you're looking for one more sale, and who the hell's coming in during a blizzard?
Hey, a tremendous thank you, Tyler, for being here, seeing many members of our community. Thanking you for taking the time out of your day, running a Toyota dealership to be here to share your perspective on what's going on. So you mentioned the past 2 years have been really, really, really strong. January was strong. February, maybe a little bit softer. Can you talk to us a little bit about the makes and models? And what I mean by that is we've seen from videos, footage in our own community, Tacomas piling up left and right. But obviously those RAV4s flying off the shelves. Talk to us a little bit about some of the trends you're seeing within the inventory that you do have.
Yeah, well, we're in the city here, so trucks we don't do quite as well with. Tundras and Tacomas. Tacomas traditionally we do okay with. Tundras are really the only thing that we probably get in the majority of the time without selling before they arrive. We're still in the pattern of selling the majority of our cars before they're either built or arrive at the dealer. Tundras have always been a little stale for us, but part of that, we're in the middle of the Midwest, and you have a large contingency of people that can't pull up to their job site in a Japanese car, they say, even though the Tundras are the most American-built full-size truck that you can get. It's just one of those old things that's kind of still around.
Let's talk about that for a moment, because obviously the tariff news is something that's taking a lot of attention right now. How impacted will Toyota be by these tariffs? I mean, there are certain vehicles that are produced, like the Tacoma, for example, I think is produced out of Mexico and then imported into the United States. But you did just make the comment that Toyotas are some of the most American-made cars. So how impacted do you expect to be by these tariffs? And are you doing anything preemptively?
No one really knows what's going to happen. I think the prevailing thought on that is it's going to be short term, but really, I think you have to look at it how it's going to affect us versus how it's going to affect everyone else in the industry, because ultimately that's what's going to affect our sales. And, Honda and Toyota are the most American made, Honda, Toyota, and Tesla are the most American made cars as far as the totality of the parts in the cars. So if there is a price shift at all, I would expect, Ford and GM and all the other makes to experience that at a greater rate than we would. And that in the end would benefit us as not as great of a thing as that is to say, but I think the feeling among most people is that this is going to be a real short-lived thing, and it's probably just a posturing thing. Not that any of us are political insiders, but
for sure.
I'm pretty sure the political insiders aren't political insiders anymore. I don't think anybody knows.
Yeah.
Well, Tyler, I think another question that comes to mind for me is around on that make and model mix. Those vehicles that are selling very quickly, we saw for Toyotas, a lot of Toyota dealers adding additional dealer markups and things like that. I'm thinking back to like the primes, for example. Are you still seeing things like that in your market area? Are dealers doing that? And is that something that we should anticipate to continue to see? I also ask through the lens of we've heard from sources that Toyota's inventory levels should continue to improve here in 2025. So I'm curious that dynamic for you as well.
Yeah, that is ultimately what causes that. There are some dealers that still charge a little bit over. It's really more the niche cars, TRD Pros, things of that nature. You get into the Grand Highlander hybrids, the Highlander hybrids, and some of the overall hybrids in general. There are some markups going on. There are some dealers too that do the sideways markups where they're not necessarily adding just that straight market adjustment. They add a $1,500 or $2,500 package, which really is a couple $100 cost to them. We've never do any of that kind of thing. But it's a lot less than it was a few years ago. A few years ago, you would see most of the dealers in the town were charging $2,500 over on a Corolla. I think that's gone for good. But by and large, those markups are gone, though most cars are still MSRP unless it's, a full-size truck or something of that nature.
Dad, I want you to jump in, but before you do, again, a reminder, Tyler runs Ackerman Toyota. So if you're in Missouri, you're in the St. Louis area, check out Ackerman Toyota. Or, of course, if you work through CarEdge, Tyler and his team are some of the folks that we love getting to partner with. But Pops, sorry for jumping in there. Just wanted to give him a shout out.
No, not a problem. Tyler, you mentioned to me before you've been there for 17 years, which is like 3 lifetimes in the car business to be somewhere that long. What is the driving force that keeps you there as long as you've been there?
It's the people, the owner, Jay Ackerman, Brian Hasey, who kind of runs all the operations here. Steve Thomas is the pre-owned sales manager, and in the entire sales department, I'm the 3rd newest person. Okay. And I'm
Wow.
Exactly. That's completely opposite of the way, you walk into a normal dealership and, you bought your car 3 years ago and you try to find someone to help you out and you're just asking for someone with a title. You have no idea who anyone is, but, our dealerships kind of run a different way. There's a lot of things that go into that, but consistency as far as the policies and pay plans and things of that nature is probably the driving force behind that.
Wow, that I mean, 17 years, and to be only the 3rd longest tenured person, that's pretty amazing. What changes have you seen in the 17 years that you've been there?
I think it's the most obvious answer, and it's it's the research, and then even the steps beyond that people use the internet for. When I started, it was 80% of people use the internet to research before they buy a car. Now I think it's 98%. I could be wrong on that, but I think people even go above and beyond that, and they really narrow down their choices before they go out and look. So it's not just kind of that bare bones or just that surface level research on a car. They're really trying to get all their plans together before they even go out into the wild and actually physically look at anything. But that simplifies business, really. It simplifies it on our end.
If you don't mind, Pops, I want to bring it back to a few Toyota-specific things. Tyler, one thing in particular we've noticed with Toyota over the years is a lot of port-installed accessories. Is that something that you've seen on your vehicles as well? For example, the vehicle comes and then at the port, there's all sorts of things added on that customers may or may not have asked for. Is that still going on? Is that here to stay?
Well, that's up to us. So we have the choice to click on or off on any of those, on any vehicle, no matter where it's built. So I think when you see that, that's a result of the dealer wanting to add that in and just add in profit, which is understandable when you're selling 100% of your inventory before it arrives. You might as well pack it up like that, but we don't do that. We customize the vehicles however the customer wants. When they order the car, and even if it's one of these cars that's not ordered that makes it here, we put a few things on that are just the common things that the majority of people want, but it's not the manufacturer, at least with Toyota, that dictates that. That's 100% the dealer's choice.
Pops, that's the type of authenticity and transparency we love here at CarEdge, and we really appreciate Tyler, and we know our community does as well. Because during the pandemic and the vehicle shortage, every vehicle, it seemed like, was loaded up with this option, that option, this option. And to know, yeah, the person that was in control of that, or the people that are at the dealership level, it makes sense why they'd be operating that way then. But as the inventory situation has switched around a little bit, changes the dynamic.
Can I ask one quick question?
Yeah.
Tyler, based on how your store does business, and it sounds like you're the exception, not the rule, because you're not loading up your cars unless the customers ask for it. You're trying to do things in a slightly different manner than perhaps your competition. What percentage of your customers are repeat customers, do you think, because of that?
The majority of our business. Now that the reason I have to think about that or pause for a second on that is we built a new building 6 years ago. We didn't move far. We're still in the city, but we did move a little bit. We're actually more accessible to the highway now. So we've gained a lot of customers, and we continue to gain a lot of customers that are a little bit further out from the prior region that we usually drew from. But the majority of our business is repeat and referral business. We've been here this will be our 42nd year. And just the way that we do business, like when you're talking about the port installed options and the markups and things of that nature, I think a lot of dealers were really short-sighted 2 and 3 years ago with marking up these cars the way they did, or adding all these port options, or adding all these dealer installed accessories. You can take that cash in hand in that moment and lose a customer, a neighborhood, an entire workplace for life. And I think that's a little understandable when you have dealerships where the personnel is switching around so often. Because, I mean, if you have a manager that doesn't know if he's going to be working there in 2 months, you got to make the bottom line look good that month. But when you have an entire management staff and sales staff that's been with the dealership for longer than a decade, than decades, you have a team that's looking out for the dealership long term. And that results in the repeat business that we have here.
It sounds like you guys are playing, as Zach likes to call it, the long game, not the short game. The short game would have been just, grabbing as much money from your customers as you could and hope that they could come back at some time in the future. You guys are doing it the opposite. You're grabbing what you need.
It was absolutely. I have one customer, one story, that we have a lady who has a business where they transport elderly people around, right? And she has a fleet of about 40 Toyota cars. And she had bought all her cars from a dealership that was actually about 3 dealerships away from us. And she went in to get a new Corolla. And this was, I think, probably 2021. And they told her $2,500 over on a new Corolla. This lady had bought over 100 cars from them over the years and has continued to buy cars. And she's our customer now for life, because she came in and we said, no, of course you can buy a Corolla, it's MSRP, and that's the end of it. But that kind of short-sightedness from a dealer, when you have that extreme of a case, is just shocking to me, how someone could make that decision.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's crazy. You have to. It seems to me, if you want to be there a long time, and 42 years is a long time. You want to sell as many people as you can, more than one car, and you do that by treating the customers properly.
Yeah. When someone comes in, we don't have an interest in selling one person one car. You sell one person one car, it does very little for you as a dealership. If it's not a positive experience, it's really not worth doing business in that moment.
Tyler, I know we got to be respectful of your time. You got a dealership to run, but a couple more questions. One has come in from Rich. Thank you, Rich, for the kind contribution. Is there a $10,000 pickup from Toyota coming anytime soon? Give Rich the good news, Tyler. It's coming soon, right?
Oh, there's no $10,000 pickup, and there's no diesels.
Hate to break it to you, Rich. Hate to break it to you, Rich. Tim wants to know, why aren't the Crowns selling very well? Is that your experience at your dealership as well?
It is. I think part of that's name recognition. A lot of people don't even know what a Crown is. That was part of it is, that's really a niche. I mean, a lot of manufacturers have gotten rid of sedans as a whole. Obviously, the Camry and Corolla are never going anywhere. Those are iconic nameplates that are always going to sell. But the Avalon really didn't sell in great numbers either. It's a really niche market for a full size sedan. Everybody's moved to SUVs, and it's that, and it's just the name. A lot of people just don't know what a Crown is, I think.
Yeah. So better deals on those vehicles than maybe some of the other ones that you were describing a moment ago.
Yeah, they are.
Okay, I have one last question I need to ask. What model Toyota do you drive?
Well, I haven't owned a car in 16 years personally.
Okay.
I am currently driving the very last Venza ever made.
Wow.
I have an affinity personally for the Venzas, and I took the very last Venza that we were ever going to get, because those were replaced by the Crown Signia, which is a great car. I just didn't want to take a Crown Signia because those are they just started coming out, and I didn't want to take it away from being a for sale unit.
I want to ask you one more question, Tyler, on the inventory situation. And as much or as little as you're able to share, it goes a long way with our community. Incoming inventory, is it supposed to increase in the coming months? Can you share any insight you have on the inventory situation? And for what it's worth, our community leans Toyota. Lots of people that are watching this want to purchase Toyota. So do you have good news or bad news on the inventory front, you think?
Well, it's hard to make those predictions because those things are based on larger things in the economy that if I could predict, I'd be retired by now. But I think it's a slow climb towards that. We're still seeing the majority of our cars sell before they're built, but it's a slow change, and that slow change has been happening probably for the last 18 months. But it's very incremental. So you will see inventory and days in stock increasing this year, I think, but it's not going to be drastic. And I think still by the end of the year, unless there's some major economic turn, you still will see the majority of Toyotas sold before they get here.
Makes sense. We know that for, like we said earlier, different types of vehicles like Tacomas and Tundras versus you're looking for a RAV4 Prime. Obviously, there's shades of gray there, but the theme with Toyota and Lexus has been, and sounds like will continue to be, shorter supply than maybe a brand like Ford. If you're driving past your local Ford dealership, don't expect a lot at the Toyota dealership or Lexus dealership to look similar. Is that fair to say?
That's fair to say, but I think that's telling for the brand. I mean, I think with what's happened with inflation and all these kind of things, people have become more pragmatic in the last few years. And when people become more pragmatic, they go towards the cars that have greater value long term. And when you do that, Toyota's going to win out.
Hey, Pops, I want to pull up one other thing here. This is from Mike. I would totally buy a car from Tyler and his dealership doing it right. Tyler didn't pay us a dime to be on the show today, folks. We work with Tyler and his team at Ackerman Toyota back at CarEdge. And so if you are interested, reach out to Tyler and his team at Ackerman Toyota. They're outside of St. Louis, Missouri. If you do end up working with them and we don't have CarEdge in the middle, that's A-okay. Just let them know that CarEdge sent you that way. There's no smoke and mirrors here, folks. Tyler's a good guy. We've been working with them for a while. Why not leverage our platform to help him help more people? Really good stuff.
Tyler, I want to thank you for spending some time with us today. It was very gracious of you.
No. Thanks, Ray. Thanks, Zach.
Yeah, Tyler, if you ever want to come back on, you're more than welcome to, and we really appreciate it. Enjoy the day, and thanks for sharing your insights with us. All the best.
Sure. Thanks, guys.
Thanks again. Yeah, there you have it. You know, they kind of get it. You know, you don't load up the cars with stuff people don't want. You don't overcharge. You try and be fair, and you I don't know, you somehow stay in business for 42 years. Go figure.
A little bit about what we learned on the Toyota situation. So, you know, I went with trouble at Toyota for the theme of today's show because deliveries are down. And you heard it right there from Tyler. February was a slower month at his dealership. He said the past 2 years have been fantastic. And even January was great, but February felt different. And I wonder, because we have Igor here in the chat with us, who's making it very clear, you know, different regions within the United States are getting more allocations of Toyota. So we've seen that news across the board now. So we know the inventory situation is going to evolve. It sounded like from what Tyler shared in his region, the inventory situation isn't as big of a deal. Like he's not expecting a ton more vehicles. But I think there's some stories here. February was slow. We know especially for certain vehicles, it's slow. And then there's an increase in inventory on the way in pockets of the United States. That's good news for shoppers.
Yes.
And maybe a slow turning of the tide over at Toyota. I think
and
really
and the other takeaway for me is if you are looking at a Toyota at a dealership, and every one of their new Toyotas has an absolute ton of port installed accessories. That was the dealership's way of trying to make additional profit, because they're the ones that decide how much or how little of port installed accessories will go on any car. At Ackerman, they don't like to add a lot of port installed accessories. They don't want to burden the customers. So that's something to look at. If you end up at a Toyota dealership and every one of their cars has $3,000 worth of port installed accessories, that tells you everything you need to know about their attitude towards their customers.
Yeah, absolutely. Dad, let's go to our favorite segment of the show because it ties in with what we just talked about.
Really? You have got to be kidding me.
Volkswagen of America seeks termination of New York dealership for poor sales. Guys and gals, listen to this. Yes. Volkswagen of America has filed a lawsuit against one of their dealers, a dealer in New York State, seeking for their dealer agreement to be terminated because of an allegedly nearly decade-and-a-half period of weak sales performance. The complaint alleges that the poor performance of Prestige Imports and a Volkswagen dealership in Pleasantville, New York, is a material breach of its dealer agreement and has cost the automaker 1,500 new car sales since 2011. The VW dealership, which is also dualed with a Subaru franchise, is located north of New York City. Quote, Prestige has failed to effectively represent the Volkswagen brand and has no valid excuse for its own poor performance. Dad, look at this. Pleasantville Ford is listed as defendant. They also own that dealership. Where is it? Here it is. VW data indicates customers who live near Prestige are purchasing vehicles from other VW dealerships, according to the complaint. Quote, this strongly indicates that Prestige is failing to effectively attract and retain customers, follow up on sales leads, and secure sales from customers it does interact with. Volkswagen made efforts to help Prestige turn things around and repeatedly gave the dealership more time to do so. The automaker sent them a deficiency letter in October of 2010 and a notice of default in August of 2011. That this dealership has done such a poor job actually selling cars that they are getting their dealership removed, license or dealership agreement terminated.
Volkswagen's trying, but the question is, if you scroll back up a little bit, the question is, if Volkswagen was sending letters in 2010 and 2011, okay, help me here. This is March 5th, 2025. How much stock are you putting in those letters? If it's taken them 14 years to actually try and do anything about it. This is as big an indictment on Volkswagen of America, perhaps an even bigger indictment on Volkswagen of America, where, for 14 years, they said, come on, guys, you really need to try harder. No, really, we can terminate your franchise if you don't really try harder. You're just playing to your Subaru audience. You're making your Volkswagen customers go somewhere else. Well, guess what? What does Volkswagen care then? If their Volkswagen customers are buying Volkswagen somewhere else, at least they're buying Volkswagens.
I just found it fantastic. Yeah, the fact that it took them 15 years to now take action, as well as the fact that 1,500 car sales lost because the dealership's just acting bad, speaks volumes to what goes on out there.
Yes. I mean, there are any number of dealerships that are underperforming dealerships throughout America where the manufacturer would like for the dealerships to do better, to increase sales, to put in place proper processes and procedures that could actually help them, maybe answer their internet leads when they get them or things of that nature. But it just, to me, it's like, is Volkswagen really serious when it takes them 15 years to go from, man, you guys are pooping the bed, to, okay, you guys don't deserve a Volkswagen franchise and we're finally going to sue you to make that? Come on.
Dad, let's come back here to the chat. Baron, thanks for the kind contribution. Sorry, I don't trust that guy Tyler as far as I can throw him. That's an interesting sentence. Yeah. I'm jaded. I know. I've never had a car dealer interaction that wasn't shady in 67 years. Trust me, if anyone gets it, it's us. We appreciate and understand that buying a car is a terrible experience 9 times out of 10. Okay. That 1 out of 10 time, the Tylers of the world, we actually got to embrace those folks and send more people their way. Let's have CarEdge be the best thing that ever happened to good dealers. And let's make sure we do not reward bad dealers. That's at least how I think about it, Dad. And that's why I think it's great that we are able to bring folks on like Tyler from time to time and really demonstrate. When we asked the port installed question, he didn't even hesitate.
Yeah.
Didn't even hesitate. I love that. That's what's important.
I get it. I mean, Baron, I get it. You know, the bad guys who have created such bad buying experiences for the vast majority of people out there, and those experiences weigh heavy on people, and
Those
so
experiences are why CarEdge exists.
exactly, and so it becomes harder and harder to accept that maybe there are some out there who want to do it the right way. That example that Tyler shared with us of that woman who had purchased over 100 Toyotas from the dealership she used to do business with. I mean, it points to ownership. It points to being greedy. You have to look at every customer and evaluate a car deal based on what it is that the customer's past buying experiences have been, how many vehicles, where do they service them, how much money are they giving you. I mean, she's got a fleet of 40 Toyotas at any given time. So how do you look at that customer who has been kind enough and gracious enough? And that's the way you have to look at your customers, to have purchased 100 plus vehicles from you, and then have the nerve to say to a good customer like that, when there is a shortage of inventory, well, your reward for your loyalty is going to be, we're going to charge you an extra $2,500. I mean, that would be the one person where you would say, you know, we would like to charge you the $2,500, but because you're such a good customer, in good conscience, we can't and we won't. And that dealership said, no, we can and we will lose you forever as a customer. So I get why Barron feels the way he feels.
Pops, hopefully you get why Eileen was so generous with her contribution. Eileen, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ray and Zach, for your knowledge, passion, and humor. Because of you, I had the confidence to lease a 2025 Mazda CX-5 on Friday, February 28th, the best day, last day of the month. I am very happy about the whole process. Congratulations, Eileen. And I just want to take a moment, Dad, not only to thank Eileen for the very generous contribution and message that she just shared with us, but for everyone out there. If you have benefited from CarEdge, leave a Google review. It means the world to us, to see this 4.9 stars. We've done incredibly well over the years. So Eileen, thank you for taking the time to share that with us, and to everyone, the thousands of people who have benefited from CarEdge. Incredibly kind and incredibly generous. I also want to turn our attention here, Dad. Brandon's been asking a bunch of times in the chat, hey guys, about to buy an SUV, a Subaru Ascent or Mazda CX-90. I'm stuck. Which one is the best for reliability? Help, please. And Phil here saying, Brandon, go check out caredge.com/comparison. And Dad, I want to pull this up for everyone here. You can go directly there, caredge.com/comparison, or you can click on research right here. And from research, we should be able to find it. It's somewhere on here. Compare cars. We're comparing a Subaru Ascent. What are we comparing it to? What was it?
A Mazda CX-90.
Mazda. We only have the 9. Jeremy and Dan are working on getting the updated data for 2025, so it's coming soon. So that'll say CX-90 shortly. But you can see right here, you've got car comparison, and we're talking about reliability, if I'm not mistaken. That was the question we were asking. So let's come down here. Cost of ownership. Which one has a higher maintenance cost? That's one of the proxies we can use here for reliability. We can also see the current incentives for both of these vehicles side by side, and vehicles that are for sale. So please, please, please check out our resources back on caredge.com/research. Great tool there for you, Brandon, and for everyone in our community.
Nicely done, young man. I give you kudos for the way you were able to segue that question into utilizing the tools that we have available right there for anybody to use at CarEdge.com.
And again, we got a big data update coming soon. I know I've been saying that for a long time, but trust me, it is coming. Again, congratulations to Eileen. It's awesome seeing so many people in our community supporting Eileen as well. So congratulations, Eileen. Dad, let's call it a show. Thank you again to Tyler for taking the time out of his day to join us to talk Toyota. We'll be back tomorrow with more CarEdge Live, 9 a.m. Pacific time, 12 p.m. Eastern. Pops, I hope you enjoy the day, and thanks as always.
Yeah, I hope you do the same. Love you, and thank you everybody for being here today. We look forward to seeing you back here tomorrow. And hey, bring a friend along.